And now more great information from Michigan's retirement coach, Mike Douglas.
And I'm Heather Branch here with Mike to talk about things you can be doing now in effort to better prepare for your financial future. LifePlanWealth.com is where you can go to begin your own conversation with Mike and his team. Again, that's LifePlanWealth.com. Mike, before we started today's podcast episode, I was asking you off mic, what are people asking you about? What are people thinking about? And it's interesting because we have these conversations thinking about your area, being in mid-Michigan or whatever. But you were saying the unique thing, I guess when it comes to financial planning, the unique thing about retirement planning is it's kind of the same everywhere because so many Americans are worried about so many similar things when it comes to everything that we kind of now manage.
Yeah, I mean, life is life. And so it may have a slightly different flavor or sound or feel to it. But really at the end of the day, what do we want to do? We want to retire. We want to be happy. We want to do things that we've been putting off.
Yeah.
We want to, whether that's trips, renovations, moving, lake time, family time, whatever it is, through life, there are things you want to accomplish. And when you retire, you have a new list. And whether you're retiring in the Southwest, Northeast, doesn't matter. You want to live out your goals. You want to have enough income to make it work. And you don't want the market to rip it all away. So it doesn't matter where you are. Retirement looks the same. It's just a matter of making it fit for you.
Got it. Okay, so perhaps we can think about it then. Retirement looks the same as far as big picture issues from coast to coast, which is why it's so important to have your own individualized plan because it really is about the individual. It's about those specifics, and it gets that detailed. That's why it's so important to have your own thing set up.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the way you build a retirement plan. It's I make the analogy oftentimes to building a house.
Yeah.
You know, you say, I want to build a new home, and that's great. And then you can't just stop there. And then the house just gets built and it's complete.
Right.
You need to go through and say, I want a 2-story home. Or a lot of people, let's say you're going into retirement, you say, I don't want stairs anymore.
Right.
Now I want a big ranch house. Okay. And where do you want it? Waterfront? Do you want it in a neighborhood? Do you want a condo? And then you start doing all these things, and it's a million questions that eventually you end up picking out like kitchen cabinet knobs. But it takes a while to get there. And by the end, though, you've built the one that you've been dreaming of.
Seriously, my husband and I, we bought a fixer-upper when we first got married, and I'm having flashbacks of PTSD to the renovation project that was because it was just so stressful. It was so stressful. And so therefore, it's just like figuring out retirement planning. I think that's why a lot of people shy away from it because they open Pandora's box and then they're like, nope, nope, nope. And they try to shut it back because it's so much to take on individually, even when we think we've got a grip on it. Because let's talk about 401ks. It seems like everybody has one because so many people do. It's often, usually, for somebody that does have one, their biggest asset that they have in retirement. However, I was reading this article that was talking about how, again, getting back to that bigger picture idea, so many of us make the same mistakes in and around our 401ks over and over and over again. So that's what I wanted to talk with you about today here on this podcast, talking about common mistakes and how to prevent them. Please enlighten us, sir.
Yeah, there's quite a few things you can do, but really understanding, again, the concept of your retirement is yours. It's not your neighbors. It's not your parents. It's not your advisors. It's your retirement.
Yeah.
And so there are things you need to understand to take control back. And one of the first things you can do, number one, is just understand the real cost of retirement. We have a concept of how much we spend a month, but when you have paychecks coming in, if it's more than what the bills are, you don't really know how much you're spending a month. You may be the occasional engineer who has the spreadsheet built out, and I get it. And I can promise you almost every single time we still find some missing pieces.
Sure.
There's also uncertainty about the cost of medical expenses in the future and all these things and inflation and how they all work together. Mm-hmm. So knowing the real cost of retirement, when you retire, lifestyle will shift. It won't always get cheaper. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you think about, well, I won't be going to work anymore. The one I hear a lot is I won't be driving to work anymore. I won't be eating lunches out anymore. So a lot of those costs will come down. And that's true because you're going to be on vacation on a cruise. And if you think a cruise is less expensive than your gas and your lunch, you're wrong.
Right.
And one good vacation will eat up 3 to 4 months of utility expenses type thing, you know, so if you're doing it right, you should spend about the same amount of money. If you wake up on July 1st and you retire June 30th, you don't want to take a 60% pay cut just because it's July 1st. Right. Now I actually have the free time to do everything I wanted to do. So I don't want to take a pay cut right now because I'm healthy, active, and I want to go do these things. Eventually in life, things will slow down, but you need to understand right out of the gate the real cost of retirement and all the things that are your expenses. Number two, having a set it and forget it strategy to your savings, there's a lot of things that can happen in the market. You can have legislation come through. You can have tax policy changes between the time when you set up your 401k and the time you actually retire. When you go through it, you need to understand that retirement investing is active. I'm not saying be an emotional investor. By no means should be an emotional investor, but it should be current. I had one client who she was almost 80. And she asked me, she goes, Mike, and her question came from an honest place, which is, she says, well, do you have skin in the game? Like, are you invested the same way I am? I said, no, I'm 39 and I do this for a living. I'm very risky because I watch it. I babysit it. I love this. You're almost 80 years old and you're living out your money. You're living your retirement life. It's different. So we need to have plans that are built, that are active and being managed. That's kind of along the same lines of another mistake. Probably number 3 is relying on target date funds too much.
Before we get into target date funds, can I just say to you, I want this moment where you pat me on the back and tell me how proud you are of me, because I actually have it on my Google Calendar every 6 months to check my 401k asset allocation. Like, I go into my account and really, because I look at the statements come in, but I really go in and say, okay, what am I buying into? And I adjust it as necessary. Thanks to these kinds of conversations that we have. So thank you tell me how wonderful I am, Mike. Do it.
You're outstanding.
Thank you.
And you are one of the few in the country.
Thank you. I just wanted to hear it. Thank you.
Exactly. Just a little props thrown your way.
Thank you. Okay. Target date funds, please. Sorry,
yes. Well, it's funny. Going back to your point, though, the average American spends 40 hours a year planning their vacations, and then they spend about less than 2 on their finances.
Sure.
So
I think it's just, honestly, I didn't even know that I should be doing those kinds of things before getting to be in a place professionally where I had this career opportunity to speak to you and therefore learn on a personal level so many things. I had no idea that I should be doing that. And that's the thing. And that's why I love getting to have these conversations. And, as you're listening to this podcast, you can find links in our show notes, et cetera. Please share it with your friends and family, because that's the whole point of it. We want people to know these kinds of things are so important.
Yeah, and a lot of times there's these questions that we don't even know to ask. There's things that, conversations to be had. It's kind of like one of your best friends was a nutritionist and you guys grab lunch together, I bet you eat healthier.
Right? Or you think to yourself, you make them order for you. You're like, what are you going to have? What should I get?
I'll have a salad too. Yeah, me too. And so these conversations, and it's not just you and I, it's anybody who wants to have these conversations. On our website, lifeplanwealth.com, there's a button on there that says start your retirement roadmap today. Anybody who wants to engage in these conversations, ask questions, see if they're prepared or if they're on the right path towards retirement, click the button. We'll reach out. We'll set up a time to have coffee and just talk it over. But that's lifeplanwealth.com, the start your retirement roadmap. Going back to the relying only on the target date funds.
Yeah.
What's interesting about those is even if you chose a 2023 target date fund, it's still going to have a lot of equities in it. We think of it as like this major shift, like, oh, it's really close. I'm going to be 70% in bonds and 30% equities. No, it's not.
But let's clearly explain. A target date fund is essentially like a stock fund, a group of stocks that you can click. I want this for 2030, say, for example, because you're planning to retire in 2030.
Correct.
And the idea behind the target date fund is that it's going to get less and less aggressive. Presumably, as you get closer to your retirement, it's supposed to be moving you to safer investment opportunities.
Right. It's supposed to de-risk you annually. Right. So every year you get closer to retirement, it takes a slight edge off the top.
And yet,
so what's interesting about it is the way they play safe is to go to bonds. And so you have so much in stocks and so much in bonds. And if we think of stocks as our risk and bonds as our stability, it's not that they're safe, but they are more stable and safer than individual equities and stocks.
Right.
So what we do is as we get older, it slowly shifts us towards a little bit more of a bond-heavy portfolio. But in these target retirement funds, oftentimes the most conservative they get is 50-50. Not always, but oftentimes 50-50 is the most conservative they get. And so as a result, they're not even all the way protected. And when interest rates go up, bonds go down. So we know for a fact that buying bonds right now is a way to lose money over the next year and a half to 2 years as the Fed continues to raise rates, most likely. So just things you want to be aware of. I'd say number 4, the next thing is if you don't rebalance your 401k, if you don't set your semi-annual Google Calendar reminder to jump back into your portfolio.
Start doing it right now. Hit pause on this podcast episode. Go to your whatever email app you use. Put it on your calendar every 6 months to check it.
Yes, just get in there. And even if you don't understand what you're looking at, just feel better about the fact that you're one of the 1% that actually check your 401k. But log in there. Again, just choose what makes the most sense. Most 401ks will have an option to do some type of a risk assessment or a tolerance threshold or something like that, or a planner where it'll say to retire with this much income, you need to contribute this much and invest this way. And so those tools can be really helpful, but don't just let it, sit there and grow dust. And the last one, the biggest mistake is not getting some professional help. Whenever it comes towards planning retirement, taxes, legacy or estate planning, and investments, 3 areas where it's huge to have a professional taking a look at what you're doing. And again, answering those questions that you don't even know how to ask yet because you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so sit down with a professional. It's kind of like as you age, the doctor you go to see changes and the visits and the frequency of visits, they all change. So, there's certain magic ages where you need new procedures and new checkups and new blood work and all these things drawn. Financially, you get to a certain place in your life where you need to have a professional taking a look at things to make sure that now that we're not just growing, but we're starting to think about living off this, I want to have someone taking a second look at it, making sure I'm okay.
All right, so let me just reiterate the points we made here today. Common mistakes of the 401ks. Underestimating the real cost of retirement, so AKA thinking you're going to spend less the second you get there. Having a set it and forget it strategy in your 401k savings plan. Relying on only target date funds, many call them TDFs. Not rebalancing your 401k and not getting professional help. 5 biggest mistakes that you think. So, okay, with all that in mind, what else? Anything else to add? Anything else we should think about?
No, but I can just tell you that when you sit down and you go, and these aren't everything, but they're a good starting point. I remember this one client, she came in, and as we walked through, she really walked in the meeting just saying, retirement scares the crap out of me. Like the thought of not getting a paycheck, I don't have enough money, we spend too much, all these things. And she came in with all these concerns. And it didn't take long to walk through it with her and say, hey, you're actually in a really good spot. But it was amazing to me that even in just 45 minutes or so, we were able to take her from complete fear to confidence. And it's not that we had changed anything except for her thinking. We just helped her to understand because with information, you're informed. And now you can make good, educated decisions and you can know where you stand. So the fear of the unknown is the thing we're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And so if we can demystify retirement like we did for her, where she walked out saying, hey, retirement's not so scary, that's what we want to do.
That's what Mike and his team are here to do with and for you as well. LifePlanWealth.com, again, is our website. You can go there, click on that Start Your Retirement Roadmap Today button to begin this process. What if just 45 minutes into a conversation completely change your perspective on your retirement years? That is what Mike and his team hope to help you figure out. You can also find links again in our show notes or visit us at LifePlanWealth.com.
Thanks for listening to Michigan's Retirement Coach with Mike Douglas. To learn more, visit LifePlanWealth.com.
Michael Douglas is an investment advisor representative of Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Michael Douglas is licensed in your state, please call 517-323-7526. Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Michael B. Douglas, NPN number 9650939.